morning, everyone. It's time to go on the record. Mitt Romney trying to derail the Donald Trump train to the nomination. Does the GOP elder still have the juice to influence Republicans? Will we see Mitt step in? The Bay State senior senator continues to fly under the radar during a pitched Democratic bid for the Oval Office. And
not thrilled about your choice of presidential candidates? We're fishing for fantasy alternatives.
From WCPB Boston, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill, today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to OTR. I'm Ed Harding, along with News Center 5's political reporter Janet Booth. Thank you for joining us on this first Sunday in March. Our guest this morning has been a mover and shaker in the Massachusetts political world for decades. John Walsh is a former chairman of the state Democratic Party and was fundamental in getting Deval Patrick elected to Beacon Hill. Welcome. Great to see you. Thank you for bringing your expertise to the OTR round.
We'll see what I brought after a couple minutes, right?
So let's jump right into it. Hillary Clinton, she won Massachusetts by less than 2%.
Exactly.
And we basically became a battleground state between her and Bernie Sanders. With Donald Trump's huge win here, is Massachusetts going to be another battleground state in November?
I doubt very much that Massachusetts will be a battleground in November. I think it'll be like every place, we can't take anything for granted, but I suspect that Massachusetts will vote Democrat based on the Electoral College. If it was, and that means that the Republican nominee, presumably Donald Trump, is not going to spend resources here. So Massachusetts is competitive when we have real campaigns.
Were you surprised that she won by so little?
No, and so I filled my oval for Bernie Sanders, so I'm not surprised. I think that one of the nice things about this race, and it's a tribute to both of these candidates, they're competing on visions of how to fix problems they see. They have had, some tussling and some sharp elbows, but they're treating each other respectfully. When you look at both candidates amongst Democrats, their net favorability is off the charts, 40, 50 points. It's a good basis for us to unify afterwards, and I think that'll happen easily.
Let me flip Janet's question to the other side. Are you surprised that Bernie Sanders didn't win here? I mean, given the fact that he won in New Hampshire, given the fact that he won and obviously lives in Vermont and here.
I suspect most of the, and I don't follow as close as I used to, but I think most of the polls showed it was competitive. Mm-hmm. He was up in a couple, she was up in a couple, so I'm not surprised it was close. And I think it could have been either one. I think the interesting effort for Democratic leaning unenrolled voters, the Globe explicitly asked people to move into the Republican primary. I think that happened somewhat. I think some of those unenrolled voters might have skewed a little bit more towards Bernie if they had stayed in the Democratic primary.
So let me walk down that path a bit. Several cities and towns considered to be Democratic strongholds had a lot of independents picking up Republican ballots this week. The question is this blue state developing a purple hue?
So I think that Massachusetts, we're the bluest of the blue, of course. If you're not from here, that people forget we voted for Ronald Reagan twice. We had 16 years of Republican governors with one wonderful oasis of Deval Patrick before we went back. Massachusetts is a lot more purple than people think. So I suspect that we're going to continue to have fights. The question for the Republicans is, are they going to stand up for what they believe? Are they going to articulate what they believe? And when that is the case, we're in for competitive elections, and we should be.
Well, there's an argument that a lot of Democrats who voted in the primary will remain Democrats, Republicans. There are, however, a lot of those independents who may be just looking for someone who is considered to be an outsider. Sure. Folks who perhaps voted for Bernie Sanders. Do you see a large number of those people moving over to the Republican in November, Donald Trump or otherwise?
Well, my friend Deval Patrick frequently did the political analysis. He, claimed to be an amateur at this, but his political analysis was very good for Massachusetts. It's much less often Democrat versus Republican than insider versus outsider. Mm-hmm. That has been
true.
if
Therefore,
you look at the profile
maybe the Donald Trump has real access to those Bernie Sanders voters then, and that would be a problem for Democrats.
We're going to have to fight for them. I mean, I suspect more likely that Donald Trump is about to destroy the Republican brand for a long time. So is it possible some of those Reagan Democrats who were afraid to switch because their parents would come out of the grave and strangle them? Donald Trump is the natural heir to Ronald Reagan's policy. Some of them, I think, they're older and they say, oh, to hell with it, I'm going to vote for Donald. But I suspect overall, the people of America, and Massachusetts particularly, are going to reject Donald Trump's vision and his tactics.
In the state's primary so far, in the state's primary so far, they haven't.
They haven't. Well,
so
one of the things is political prognostication has always been a dangerous business. Take everything you know and throw it out the window for this one. But I believe, even when voters and I disagree, when the majority of voters and I disagree, I think voters are smart. They're not going to turn America over to Donald Trump. And I think that many people on both sides of the aisle are going to do everything they can to make sure that's not going to happen.
Let's switch the conversation to one of sort of the probably biggest political leader in Massachusetts right now, Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Yep.
Her silence has been deafening, both not only here in Massachusetts, but nationally. Doesn't she have a responsibility as a political leader to speak up and explain who she thinks will be the best president?
I don't know whether she will eventually, but I think what Elizabeth Warren sees herself as not a party leader, although she is the prominent voice of values, progressive values in the Democratic Party. I think what she is working very hard, and I'm proud every day to have her as my senator, to drive those issues. And on her political calculation, from what I follow, she sees her initial responsibility, and I think it's based on that she would find both of these candidates acceptable. She's working around the country to move Senate seats.
So in other words,
I think that's her political focus right now.
So are you saying, in other words, what she's trying to do is push Hillary Clinton further to the left, closer to where she stands on issues of economics, et cetera?
So I'm hesitant to speak for the senator, but I think if you could, if she was having a conversation with her friends, I think she finds both Hillary and Bernie Sanders on the right side of issues relative to the Republicans, and she would love to have them, and she's complimented both of them when they come out on issues she cares about. I don't think she's consciously trying to push anyone. I think she's consciously trying to move a couple of Senate seats, which could matter a major big deal.
Well, let me go back to the last part of Janet's question. Do you think she has a responsibility because of her position in the state and let's say even in the country too? Do you think she has a responsibility now to say how she feels?
I don't think so because I don't think that she thinks either of these people would be bad. I suspect that she finds both of them acceptable. She can keep her focus on the Senate and on the issues. I think if she thought somebody was the wrong person and they were sending, as if she were a Republican, I think you'd find her out leaving, what was her quote, should be teeth on the floor or whatever that is, should be fighting, because that's who she is.
Let's talk about the governor's office. The governor's office in the state. And I understand that we're what, 2 years away from letting it. But are Democrats prepared to put up a candidate to challenge not only a very popular governor within the state, but if you look at all the governors within the United States, he's as popular as any governor. So is there anyone in line here?
I suspect there are multiple people who are actively thinking about running, and I think
Give us some names.
So, I mean, I can't give you any from inside knowledge, but from reading the tea leaves, I think certainly Seti Warren in Newton is up for re-election next year as the mayor. I think he would likely be thinking about it. You see Joe Curtatone active on issues out front, a smart mayor. I think Mayor Kim Driscoll, mayor of Lynn, is also a star of our party. When I think her family, when her kids get old enough so she can run around the whole Commonwealth, I suspect she'll be a candidate. I think you see two.
Mayor of Salem, isn't she?
Mayor of Salem,
Kim
yes.
Driscoll, yeah.
Yeah, and then Senator Dan Wolf from the Cape has said he's not running for re-election. I think he's looked at this before. I think Senator Ben Downing. I think Linda Forey might be a candidate. I think the biggest advantage Democrats have is a deep talent.
But you know what they say in pro football? If you have two quarterbacks, you have none.
Exactly.
You need to have one.
Well, you need to have one in September of 2018. And I'm a strong believer that competition is good for us. So I hope a number of those people get in. And we have a contest. We have a contest of ideas, contest of qualifications, a contest of strategies. That'll give us the best candidate.
And the fact that Charlie Baker has a popularity of over 80%, and you don't think it's going to scare any of these people off?
I think that Charlie Baker's popularity is about as high as George H.W. Bush's one was in the early 90s. I think he got to in the 80s. Isn't that where the governor is now? I think about 16 months later, he was at 29. And then he had a wonderful retirement, which I hope Charlie does too.
All right, you ready for the OTR pop quiz?
I'm never ready.
Yes, you look at that. There's
My
confidence
goal
on
is to
that
go
face.
0 for 5. Has anybody ever gone 0 for 5?
Yeah, Pablo Sandoval did that too many times
Probably
last
not the
year.
last.
You are a political junkie by profession, and for people collecting memorable quotes, this presidential campaign has been a goldmine every day. So let's see if you can identify which candidates deliver these nuggets in our OTR pop quiz. Question 1, and I quote, "You may have seen I recently launched a Snapchat account. I love it. I love it. Those messages disappear all by themselves."
I have no idea.
That's an easy one.
Charlie
Emails disappearing.
Baker? I know.
Emails disappearing. Hillary Clinton.
Oh, Hillary Clinton.
All
Okay.
right, question 2. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I still wouldn't lose voters.
That is definitely the Donald Trump.
And on Donald Trump, we go to a break. We'll be right back.